Hi, there, it's WB and welcome to World Broadcast YouTube channel. Before we get started, make sure you hit the subscribe button and press bell icon to never miss any latest news. Here's the list of Supreme Court Justice candidates Trump will choose from. Only moments after Supreme Court Justice Anthony Kennedy announced his retirement, President Trump revealed that he will choose his replacement from his previously released list of 25 candidates, the Associated Press breaking. Trump says next Supreme Court Justice pick will come from previously released list of 25 candidates. In a statement immediately following Justice Kennedy's retirement announcement, President Trump called Justice Kennedy a great justice. He thanked Kennedy for his several years of service, calling him a spectacular man. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, RK, says his chamber will waste no time on confirming a replacement for Justice Kennedy, claiming they will vote this fall for Trump's nominee, the Associated Press. The latest, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell says his chamber will vote this fall on President Trump's nominee to replace Justice Anthony Kennedy. The latest, Kennedy to retire, Trump to nominate new Justice. Washington, AP, the latest on Justice Anthony Kennedy's retirement, all times local, 2:23 p.m. President Donald Trump says the search for a new SuperNews.com. Here's the solid list of nominees from which President Trump will choose his next Supreme Court Justice. President Donald Trump announced Judge Neil Gorsuch as his nominee to succeed Antonin Scalia on the Supreme Court of the United States on January 31, 2017. On May 18, 2016, he released a list of individuals that Trump would consider as potential replacements for Justice Scalia at the United States Supreme Court. According to a statement attributed to Trump and released via his campaign website, 1. Justice Scalia was a remarkable person and a brilliant Supreme Court justice. His career was defined by his reverence for the Constitution and his legacy of protecting Americans' most cherished freedoms. He was a justice who did not believe in legislating from the bench, and he is a person whom I held in the highest regard and will always greatly respect his intelligence and conviction to uphold the Constitution of our country. The following list of potential Supreme Court justices is representative of the kind of constitutional principles I value and, as president, I plan to use this list as a guide to nominate our next United States Supreme Court justices. 2. On September 23, 2016, Trump released a second list of individuals expanding on the list released in May. Trump announced that he would not only select a successor to Justice Scalia from his list, but added, I will choose only from it in picking future justices of the United States Supreme Court. According to a statement attributed to Trump and released via his campaign website, 3. We have a very clear choice in this election. The freedoms we cherish and the constitutional values and principles our country was founded on are in jeopardy. The responsibility is greater than ever to protect and uphold these freedoms, and I will appoint justices, who, like Justice Scalia, will protect our liberty with the highest regard for the Constitution. This list is definitive and I will choose only from it in picking future justices of the United States Supreme Court. I would like to thank the Federalist Society, the Heritage Foundation and the many other individuals who helped in composing this list of 21 highly respected people who are the kind of scholars that we need to preserve the very core of our country, and make it greater than ever before. 2. 2017 editions. On November 17, 2017, President Trump announced 5 more names would be added to his list. A White House statement announcing the nominees stated, 1 year ago, President Donald J. Trump was elected to restore the rule of law and to make the judiciary great again. Following the successful confirmation of Justice Neil M. Gorsuch to the Supreme Court of the United States and the nomination of more than 70 federal judges, including 5 individuals from his Supreme Court list, President Trump today announced that he is refreshing his Supreme Court list with 5 additional judges. President Trump will choose a nominee for a future Supreme Court vacancy, should one arise, from this updated list of 25 individuals. The president remains deeply committed to identifying and selecting outstanding jurists in the mold of Justice Gorsuch. These additions, like those on the original list released more than a year ago, were selected with input from respected conservative leaders. 2. The complete list of Trump nominees to the U.S. Supreme Court had the following names, listed alphabetically. Page updated November 17, 2017. Amy Coney Barrett, U.S. Court of Appeals for the 7th Circuit. Keith Blackwell, Supreme Court of Georgia. Charles Canady, Supreme Court of Florida. Stephen Kilaton, U.S. Court of Appeals for the 8th Circuit. Allison Ide, U.S. Court of Appeals for the 10th Circuit. Britt Grant, Supreme Court of Georgia. Raymond Gruender, U.S. Court of Appeals for the 8th Circuit. Thomas Hartman, U.S. Court of Appeals for the 3rd Circuit. Brett Kavanaugh, U.S. Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit. Raymond Cathledge, U.S. Court of Appeals for the 6th Circuit. Joan Larson, U.S. Court of Appeals for the 6th Circuit. Mike Lee, U.S. Senator from Utah. Thomas Lee, Supreme Court of Utah. Edward Mansfield, Supreme Court of Iowa. Federico Moreno, U.S. District Court for the Southern District of Florida. Kevin Newsom, U.S. Court of Appeals for the 11th Circuit. William Pryor, U.S. Court of Appeals for the 11th Circuit. Margaret Ryan, U.S. Court of Appeals for the Armed Forces. Amal Thapar, U.S. Court of Appeals for the 6th Circuit. Timothy Temkovich, U.S. Court of Appeals for the 10th Circuit. David Stras, Supreme Court of Minnesota. Diane Sykes, U.S. Court of Appeals for the 7th Circuit. Don Millett, Supreme Court of Texas. Patrick Wyrick, Supreme Court of Oklahoma. Robert Young, Supreme Court of Michigan. Amy Coney Barrett of Indiana, U.S. Court of Appeals for the 7th Circuit. Keith Blackwell of Georgia, Supreme Court of Georgia. Charles Canady of Florida, Supreme Court of Florida. Stephen Kilaton of Iowa, U.S. Court of Appeals for the 8th Circuit. Allison Ide of Colorado, U.S. Court of Appeals for the 10th Circuit. Britt Grant of Georgia, Supreme Court of Georgia. Raymond Gruender of Missouri, U.S. Court of Appeals for the 8th Circuit. Thomas Hartman of Pennsylvania, U.S. Court of Appeals for the 3rd Circuit. Brett Kavanaugh of Maryland, U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit. Raymond Cathledge of Michigan, U.S. Court of Appeals for the 6th Circuit. Joan Larson of Michigan, U.S. Court of Appeals for the 6th Circuit. Mike Lee of Utah, United States Senator. Thomas Lee of Utah, Supreme Court of Utah. Edward Mansfield of Iowa, Supreme Court of Iowa. Federico Moreno of Florida, U.S. District Court for the Southern District of Florida. Kevin Newsom of Alabama, U.S. Court of Appeals for the 11th Circuit. William Pryor of Alabama, U.S. Court of Appeals for the 11th Circuit. Margaret Ryan of Virginia, U.S. Court of Appeals for the Armed Forces. David Stras of Minnesota, U.S. Court of Appeals for the 8th Circuit. Diane Sykes of Wisconsin, U.S. Court of Appeals for the 7th Circuit. Amal Thapar of Kentucky, U.S. Court of Appeals for the 6th Circuit. Timothy Temkovich of Colorado, U.S. Court of Appeals for the 10th Circuit. Robert Young of Michigan, Supreme Court of Michigan. Brett Don Willett of Texas, Supreme Court of Texas. Patrick Wyrick of Oklahoma, Supreme Court of Oklahoma. It seems like the perfect time to show the brand new RNC ad depicting the current state, prior to Justice Kennedy's announcement to retire, of the Democrat Party. Watch the video. The Left in 2018, Unhinged. Link in the description below. Please don't forget to like and support our channel by press subscribe button. Thank you for watching.